The rope by which the goat was tethered had become tangled on the old plowshare. "Hey, Billy!" The goat responded with a cool and penetrating stare. The top of a ladder rose out of the squarely dug hole. It was a statue which had fallen from its place on the wall. 5 fingers of stone projected from the back of the carving. The statue was too heavy to lift. It overbalanced into the sand. There was a pattern of 5 holes arranged on the wall. They'd been drilled there deliberately. There was a pattern of 5 holes arranged on the wall. They'd been drilled there deliberately. There was a pattern of 5 holes arranged on the wall. They'd been drilled there deliberately. I placed my fingers and thumb into the holes in the wall. Nothing happened. Behind the altar was a carved panel decorated with animals, birds, and plants. I tried in vain to move the panel. The sack contained a fine white powder. As I dipped my fingers into the soft white powder, I realized what it was. Plaster of Paris. I'd used it in kindergarten to make casts of animal paw prints. I reached into the sack, but it was empty. The bench had probably been used by Pegram and his archaeological team. The only object on the table which interested me was a small sack. The towel had dried out and was barely damp. As I swung the stone upright, I noticed it had left a pattern of holes in the sand. I sprinkled the plaster on the sand until the holes were filled. It was a calendar with a faded photograph of a prize-winning carp. I held the towel under the faucet and soaked it with water. The trickle of water was quickly absorbed by the plaster. I eased the solid piece of plaster from the sand. Underneath, it had formed a perfect copy of the statue. The hardened plaster cast fitted snugly into the 5 matching sockets. There was a soft thud, then silence. A flight of stairs led down into darkness.
So, where did you stay last night?
At McDevitt's. I got to drinking with Doyle and a couple of the guys.
That explains why you look so ill today. Did you get any sleep at all?
Not much. I had to share the room with another guy.
Did he snore?
Hardly. He was dead. Then Leary woke me in the middle of the night to help bail out the cellar.
The cellar was flooded?
Yeah, some idiot had left the faucet running.
And you say Pegram has disappeared?
Without a trace. But my visit wasn't a complete waste of time.
Pegram's gem?
The Templars' gem. Whoever Jacques Marquet is, he's in for a disappointment.
Jacques Marquet?
He's the guy who should have collected the gem from Fitzgerald.
What are your plans?
I want to find out who, what, or where Montfaucon was. All I've got to go by is the name and a picture of a hanged man. Let's take another look at the manuscript. That's the gem that Pegram found in Lochmarne. I can't sit here all day, much as I'd like to.
Okay. Don't forget to look for Lobineau at the Kron Museum. And why don't you see if Rousseau has heard anything?
Okay. Anything else I can do for you while I'm out? Shopping, a trip to the laundromat?
Just take care of yourself.
It was Rousseau's sidekick, Sergeant Moo. Excuse me?
Ah, Monsieur Stobart, n'est-ce pas?
That's correct. You remember me.
The retention of such data is part of my duty as a gendarme. That is how crime is fought, through attention to detail, not intuition.
Yes, sure. Have you heard of a man called Marquet?
Yes. He used to be known as the Mole of Montmartre. I heard he's been hospitalized, probably by one of his rivals.
Which hospital was Marquet taken to?
The Hagenmeyer Clinic, in the Avenue des Hérissons.
Why was Marquet known as the Mole of Montmartre?
Because he lived in Montmartre, I suppose.
Yeah, but why the mole?
I don't know. Maybe he ruined people's lawns.
I'd like to report an assault.
Yes, monsieur? Where is the victim?
I'm the victim. I've been harassed by a pair of thugs.
I see. And where did this alleged assault take place?
Outside the Hotel Ubu. They stopped me as I was leaving and went through my pockets.
Could you describe the suspects, monsieur?
One looked like a gorilla, and the other looked like a weasel. Their names are Flap and Guido.
Bon. I'll get them this time.
What are you going to do about Flap and Guido, Sergeant?
I'm going to bust them, monsieur. For years I have been hoping to pin something on that pair. Now's my chance. I'll show them. And the inspector.
Thanks, Sergeant. Thanks for taking me seriously.
I'm only doing my duty, monsieur.
Do you know a man named Khan? He's a shifty-looking guy with a scar on his left cheek.
No, monsieur. Has this man any connection with the bombing of the cafe?
Yes. I believe Khan was the name he used when he hired the clown costume. Is Rousseau here?
Yes, he is. You wish to speak to him?
Yes, I do.
One moment, monsieur. Stobart is here to see you, monsieur.
Did he say what it was about?
No, monsieur.
Very well.
Hi, Inspector. Remember me?
But of course, Mr. Stobart. My mind is a well-ordered faculty. A mental classification system that's the envy of the Bibliothèque Nationale. No tricks, mark you, monsieur. Just exercise. Just as our muscles waste through inactivity, so our minds decay. But there is no need. If only people would learn to exercise their wits daily.
If he was trying to impress me, it worked. He was pompous and patronizing, but he had style.
Eh bien, if you called about the bombing, you're too late. Investigations have been closed.
But
I've been taken off the case.
what about the murderer, the dead guy?
It is out of my hands.
Ever heard of a guy called Marquet? Jacques Marquet?
Marquet, I know the name well. He has a record for suspected blackmail, kidnapping, arson, and art theft.
An all-rounder, huh? How come he's on the loose?
His bravado is matched only by the courtroom skills of his attorney.
Have you heard of Professor Pegram, the archaeologist?
Molly Pegram, the second son of Lord Barclay Pegram.
I don't know. I only read about him in a magazine.
So much for the efficacy of rehabilitation. What has he done this time?
He made an important archaeological find in Ireland. Do you know Pegram well?
I have connections with the family, but I wouldn't say I knew him at all.
Is his name really Molly?
Of course not. That was the nickname he was given at school. All his friends and acquaintances know him as Molly.
Don't you want to know what I found out about the killer?
I told you, monsieur, the case is closed. I have washed my hands of the whole affair.
Then I'll have to continue my investigations without your help.
No, you must forget the business of the clown completely. Go back to being an ordinary tourist, Stobart.
Do you know a pair of thugs called Flap and Guido?
I have known those two since they graduated from special school. Flap is a nasty piece of work, but Guido is the real brains of the partnership. Where did you hear of them?
I met them out front of the Hotel Ubu. Did you find out the ID of the guy who was killed in the explosion?
I already knew who he was.
I heard that the bomb victim's name was Plantar.
Your sources are reliable.
He was a big shot at the Treasury, wasn't he? Maybe that's why you've been taken off the case.
I'm sorry, monsieur. I cannot comment.
What was that psycho-detective business you did in the cafe?
It is my theory that the passions evoked in violent crimes create ripples in the ether, invisible to all but the possessor of a highly developed and receptive mind.
I'm impressed. Can you bend spoons, too?
I didn't think a man of your obvious intelligence would stoop to mockery.
I'm not mocking. I've had personal experience of the power of the mind. I used to get ignored at parties until I read a book that changed my life.
Really? What was it called?
Hypnotism for Fun and Profit. He looked at me as if I'd farted at a funeral.
The power of mesmerism is a rare gift, not a party trick.
You're not going to try any of that psychic interrogation on me, are you?
Do you find the thought of my probing distasteful?
Let's just say I'd rather you didn't. I've got more doubts than doubting Thomas when it comes to mysticism.
Too bad. I think you would make an interesting subject under controlled regression.
The day I let anyone mess with my mind hasn't dawned yet. Do you recognize the man in this photograph?
No.
It's the face of a killer.
The man who bombed the cafe?
The photograph was taken soon after the explosion. He'd escaped through the sewers, leaving a trail of clues behind him.
Circumstantial evidence, Stobart. None of it proves a thing.
What do you make of this, Inspector?
Astounding. Where did you come by a stone like that?
I was given it by a man in a bar in Ireland. Do you recognize the gem?
It is unfamiliar to me. If such a jewel had been stolen, I would know it for sure.
So long, Inspector. The old building managed to retain some of its original grandeur, but the modern additions looked like a baseball cap on a statue of a medieval saint. There was no sign of the crew of the ambulance. I felt a little guilty as I tried the door, like I was about to rob a grave. I gripped the handle with an involuntary tremble in my hand and pulled. The door was locked. The woman managed to look overworked and hassled, though she didn't appear to be doing anything. The young man's face was full of eagerness and enthusiasm. I figured he was fresh from college. Hi, my name's George Stobart.
Pleased to meet you, sir.
Call me George if you like.
Are you sure?
Yeah, that's my name.
My name's Benoit, but everyone calls me Bunny.
Bunny.
That's right. I used to have this cute habit when I was a kid.
Keep it to yourself, Benoit. Do you know anything about a patient named Marquet?
And no, sir, I don't know much about any of the patients.
I've never met a doctor who admits that he's only human.
I'm only a trainee, sir. I'm sure I'll get the hang of things.
Do you recognize the man in this photograph?
No, monsieur. I've never seen him before.
See you later.
Right.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir?
Is this the Hagenmeyer Clinic?
That's correct.
I thought I was in a garden center.
Oh, the plans. They were my idea. A little greenery to evoke the spirit of nature. How may I help you?
Has Marquet been visited by a man in a clown costume?
Oh, no.
You haven't seen a man in disguise?
Well, there's Theodore the bear. He comes every Thursday to entertain the children. Personally, I think he scares them half to death in that crummy old bear suit. If I was stuck on my back with tubes in every orifice, he's the last person I'd want to see.
Has Marquet had a visit from a pair of gangsters?
I should hope not. Can you describe them?
A thin guy who looks like a weasel and his friend, the gorilla.
Sounds as if they escaped from a zoo.
I'm here to see Jacques Marquet.
Oh, yes. Are you related to our client, sir?
Yeah, I'm his, long-lost brother.
A brother half his age with a different name and an American accent.
Yeah, people always say that. I blame Mom. We were separated at an early age, after a mix-up in the nursery at the Oakland shopping mall.
I've never heard anything so ridiculous in all my life.
I guess not. So, do I get to see Marquet before the funeral?
That attitude will get you nowhere. My instructions were quite clear. No one gets to see Marquet. So unless you can prove you're a relative or a close acquaintance, you're wasting your time here.
Have you seen this man here at the clinic?
No, sir. And I never forget a face.
Thanks for your help, ma'am.
You're welcome.
The guy seemed to be practicing his air of authority. Today, he was working on his withering stare. Hi, my name's George Stobart.
Really? If you wish to make an appointment, see the receptionist.
I'm looking for a guy named Jacques Marquet.
In which department does he work?
He doesn't. He's a patient.
I see. You do realize there are strict policies regarding visiting hours, don't you?
This is important. I have to talk to Marquet urgently.
We make no exceptions to the rules.
It's a matter of life and death.
The well-oiled running of this hospital is a matter of life and death. That's why we have rules.
I think I ought to warn you that Marquet is not what he seems.
Explain yourself.
He's in league with a bunch of guys who want to take over the world.
Nonsense. Besides, Marquet's employers have paid in advance for one of our most exclusive private rooms.
Could you tell me who Marquet's employers are?
Certainly not.
Thanks for your help. He was a thin-faced, pallid guy with a questionable taste in outlandish clothes. My mother used to dress like that. I beg your pardon. Are you André Lobineau?
That's me. You want my autograph?
No, I was told you may be able to help me.
Help?
My name is George Stobart. I'd like your professional opinion.
Well, okay. Shoot.
Does the name Montfaucon mean anything to you?
Sure. It was the most grisly spectacle in Paris until the Revolution.
A public toilet?
Montfaucon was the place of execution for many thousands. A dark temple of death, with row upon row of arches, each one framing a grim exhibit. Scores of rotting corpses swung on creaking rope, while the crows devoured their flesh.
That explains the image of the hanged man. I found a reference to Montfaucon in Ireland, in a village called Lochmarn.
Lochmarn? That's where Pegram was digging.
That's right. He'd left the excavation before I arrived. Do you know Pegram well?
Not really. I met him at a conference. I would have liked to talk to him in depth, but I didn't have time.
When was this?
Oh, back in the summer, July, I think.
The second week of July?
Maybe. Yes, it was, just before Bastille Day.
So Pegram was in Paris at the same time as the other victims.
Pardon? Victims of what?
Nothing. Just thinking aloud. Where was the site of Montfaucon?
To the northeast, near the Canal Saint-Martin, but there's nothing there now. The old gibbet was torn down during the Revolution.
What can you tell me about Philippe le Bel?
He was responsible for the extermination of the Knights Templar.
I know that, but why was Philip so hot to get rid of them?
Mostly because he wanted to get his hands on their treasure. He had an enormous debt and a lifelong war with England to fund. The trouble was, the Templars were a highly respected holy order.
If the Templars were so powerful, how did this Philippe dude wipe them out?
By underhanded, dishonorable means, of course. The Pope was Clement V, a Frenchman.
French, huh? Handy for Philippe.
Fate had nothing to do with it. He was Philippe's puppet, planted to further his political ambitions. Philippe wanted the wealth of the Templars and used Clement to get it.
So what was Philippe's plan? What happened?
Sealed orders were sent out all over France, not to be opened until the appointed day. That day was Friday, July 13th. That's the origin of our superstition regarding that date. At dawn, throughout the whole of France, the Templars were arrested. It was the biggest bust in the history of the world.
What happened to the Templars after their arrest?
Philippe was out for blood, so he handed the Templars over to the Inquisition. Not surprisingly, they confessed to a sensational and sordid list of blasphemies.
Like what?
Oh, the sort of things you read about in the gutter press. Devil worship, lewd sexual practices, spitting on the Holy Cross, that kind of thing.
Well, that must have given their lawyers some headaches.
Whether or not the accusations were true, this was not good publicity. Most of the charges were probably cooked up, but so were the Templars, literally. Hundreds of them were found guilty of heresy and flame-grilled at the stake. They died protesting their innocence.
But surely Philippe had no proof of his charges against the Templars.
A man will admit anything under torture. The Inquisition fabricated some nonsensical demon called Baphomet, and then suggested to their victims that this was what they worshipped.
But they didn't have to agree.
The records show a Templar coming to trial with both feet burnt off. Fragments of flesh and charred bone falling from the stumps. What would you not admit to stop such torment?
So there was no truth at all in the Baphomet accusations?
Not a shred. Almost every victim described the idol differently. No, Baphomet never existed outside the sick minds of the inquisitors.
So Philippe stole the Templars' riches, huh?
Oh no, they weren't stupid. The king's troops marched first on the temple in Paris, then to the Templar home port at La Rochelle. There was no trace of the treasure, and the fleet of the Knights Templar had set sail.
I'd like your opinion on a medieval manuscript.
Vraiment? Do you have it with you?
No, it's too fragile. And besides, there are certain people who'd stop at nothing to get their hands on it.
Intriguing. Do you have a copy of the text?
There isn't much, only a few Latin phrases. I was kind of hoping you'd help decipher the pictures.
Without seeing the manuscript, that's a tall order.
Just tell me one thing. What does the image of two men riding on the same horse suggest to you?
The Knights Templar. Does the Templar seal appear on this manuscript? I'd love to see that for myself.
Can you tell me anything about the Knights Templar?
I sure can, Georgie. Soldiers, diplomats, mercenaries, monks, bankers, you name it, the Templars fit the bill. The greatest fighting force in Christendom, the militia of Christ.
Jeez. How did the Templars get their name?
From the building in which they set up their headquarters. The King of Jerusalem gave them part of a mosque on the Temple Mount. It was said to have been the site of the original Temple of Solomon. The order became known first as the Knights of the Temple, and later as the Knights Templar.
You're a mine of information, Andre.
Glad to be of help, Georgie.
How come the Templars became so wealthy?
There was a constant stream of new recruits to their ranks, many from noble families. They were required to swear a sacred oath of poverty, chastity, and obedience. So, their money, goods, and lands were donated to the order. The Templars soon held land in France, Scotland, England, Spain, most of Europe, in fact. The poor Knights of Christ became the wealthiest power in Christendom.
Is it true the treasure of the Knights Templar was never found?
Who knows? So little knowledge of what really happened remains. Or, if it does, the truth has never been made public.
What do you mean by that?
The Templars have attained a mythological status, like the King Arthur of the Britons. There are people even now who say the Templars still exist.
Do you think that's likely?
No, not for a minute.
The manuscript is being looked after by a friend.
In Paris?
Yeah, not far from here, in fact.
Well, just give me the address and I'll come round and take a look.
I'm not so sure about that. Maybe I should check with her first.
A female friend?
Yeah, she's a woman. Maybe it was my imagination, but I noticed a predatory look in his eye. Suddenly, this friendly historian had turned into the big bad wolf. This friend who has the manuscript?
Oui, the anonymous girlfriend.
She lives at 361 Rue Jarry.
Ah, I know it well. I'll drop by. Just as soon as I can.
Thanks for your help, Andre.
You're welcome.
Hi, Andre.
Hello, Georgie.
Thanks for your help, Andre.
You're welcome.
Hi, Nico.
What are you sounding so chipper about?
I'm full of the joys of the fall.
I can't imagine why.
Because Sergeant Moo has given me another lead. The guy who was supposed to collect the gem, Jacques Marquet.
You found him.
He's in a hospital here in Paris. I guess that was the killer's doing, to stop him meeting Pegram.
Maybe. Are you going to try to talk to Marquet?
What have I got to lose?
Plenty.
Let's take another look at the manuscript. Have you found out any more about the Knights Templar?
Yes, I have. The guy responsible for their downfall was Philippe IV, the King of France, otherwise known as Philippe le Bel.
I've heard of him.
Well, he is known to history as Philippe the Fair, but I doubt if the Templars called him that. I'm sure André will tell you all about him.
See you soon.
Yeah, see you.
A typically Parisian sidewalk cafe. Last time I visited one of those, it blew up. I decided I was happy enough right where I was. I once read a list of low-stress jobs. It didn't include police work. Obviously, this guy hadn't read the same list. Excuse me, officer.
And how may I help you?
What do you know about the Knights Templar?
Les Templiers. Only that they were excommunicated in 1312 and hanged in their dozens within this very square.
Boy, what they teach in the police academy these days.
No, monsieur. I read it on that board over there.
Shouldn't you be off directing traffic or something?
You have seen the Parisian traffic, no?
Yeah, so?
I could direct the traffic, the most dangerous, the east side of Rome. Or I can sit here and enjoy the sun, the architecture, and the Sauvignon. Which would you choose?
Yeah, but I'm not a policeman. What happened to duty?
An excellent question, monsieur.
Have you seen this man before?
No. Who is it?
I believe him to be an international assassin.
Oh,
Is that all you can say? Oh.
I did wonder if I should say that I believe you to be an international paranoiac, but it didn't seem polite.
Look at this gem. What do you think?
Cut glass.
No, it's not. It's for real.
What kind of madman would go around waving a priceless gem under people's noses?
So either it's glass or I'm mad? I didn't like to think about that for too long. I'll see you around.
Oui, monsieur. I'll be there.
an architectural echo of the gallows that once used to stand here. Fixed to the wall was a sign in 3 languages. In French, English, and German, it read, "In 1312, Pope Clement V dissolved the knightly order of the Templars and excommunicated its members on charges of heresy. In the following 2 years, many of the knights were hanged on this site. Their Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, was burnt at the stake on an island in the Seine." In the middle of the square was a manhole. I wondered if there might be something relevant beneath street level. I couldn't open it with my bare hands. An ornate fountain stood in one corner of the square. I'd have to come by here in the summer to see it working. There was no water to frolic about in, and the leaf mold that was collecting there just wasn't the same somehow. At the top of the stairs was a medieval church. A row of old pews, beautifully carved and glowing with polish. I thought of all the people who must have sat here over the decades. All those Parisian derrieres, firm buttocks of the young ladies, the flabby flesh of the old men. That wasn't a pleasing image, so I went back to the young ladies. Whoa! I didn't have time to sit around. A knight's tomb, his effigy in marble lying in perpetual state. Waiting in prayer for the judgment day. A knight there in the company of his fellows. Biblical references engraved into the tomb edge to guide his way to the next world, I guess. A stone knight lay on the church floor. Just think, there's a dead guy under there. The second stone knight in a row of 4 lay on the church floor. I was surprised Philip le Bel had left this place alone. A huge stained glass window formed a magnificent centerpiece for its neighbors. I didn't recognize the biblical story in it. I was a Sunday school dropout. A stone knight lay in full stone armor. blank eyes looking at the ceiling. Carrying all that armor around must have been hard work. A stone knight lay at the end of a row of 4. I wondered if this guy had died in combat. A statue of a knight holding a staff and a scroll. The statue had any secrets. It was concealing them pretty well. The statue had any secrets. It was concealing them pretty well. On the end of the staff was some kind of disc with a cross on it. Around the base of the disc was a hairline crack. Well, I could have just taken the end off the staff, but I wanted to be sure what I'd be getting out of vandalizing a church, other than deported. A scroll was a symbol of scholarship. I knew that much. Per disciplinum meum lux videbis. A bit of a stained glass window. Wow! Hoping for a big insight while squinting through a hunk of statuary had been pretty optimistic, I guess. An enormous window. In comparison to its neighbor, it looked pretty plain. A huge arched window. Somehow it looked more modern than its neighbor. Per disciplinum meum lux videbis. A bit of a stained glass window. Wow! Hoping for a big insight while squinting through a hunk of statuary had been pretty optimistic, I guess.
Hey, you! What do you think you are doing? Leave that comer alone, now.
Sorry, no harm intended.
You stay away from that.
Hello again, officer.
Hello again, monsieur.
Would you like to shake? I stopped myself barely in time. Electrocuting a cop would not have been smart. They'd rebuild the Bastille just so they could throw me in and throw away the key. Does this matchbook mean anything to you?
The pattern looks Middle Eastern. Beyond that, who knows?
Take a look at this.
Ah, an electrician. My TV has been acting up. Could you fix it?
I doubt it. This isn't my ID. I'll see you around.
Oui, monsieur. I'll be there.
There was no obvious way into the building. A real macho guy would have plunged straight into the spiky, scratchy bushes. Not me.
Hi, Andre. Hello, Georgie. Thanks for your help, Andre. You're welcome.
The statue didn't deserve to be mauled by a Philistine like me. Excuse me.
What do you want now?
Is Rosso here?
Yes, he is. You wish to speak to him?
Yes, I do.
One moment, monsieur. It's Stobart, monsieur. He insists on talking to you again.
Thank you, Moo. What now, monsieur?
Have you heard of the Knights Templar?
Les Templiers. But of course, monsieur, their fame is widespread throughout France. We haven't forgotten them, unlike the rest of Europe.
It was the King of France who persecuted them, though.
Indeed.
That shook his cool. Underneath his cultured facade, the man was real twitchy. You're obviously a great admirer of the Knights Templar.
They were men of great honor, monsieur. The flower of chivalry.
Not everyone would share your views, Inspector.
Not everyone shares my passion for Bartok.
But if the Templars were as honorable as...
That's enough. I do not wish to hear your uninformed opinions, Stobard.
Why do you get so wound up about the Knights Templar? They've been dead for centuries. I shouldn't have pushed my luck. Maybe his ancestors were Templars. Whatever. I saw the anger flare in his eyes like a distant summer thunderstorm.
The Templars were the first true internationalists. 800 years on, and still the world is fragmented by nationalistic flag-waving fools. You will excuse me.
Hey, Benoit.
There's no need to shout. What do you want?
Does this gem mean anything to you?
Not me, sir?
See you later.
Right.
Hey, Benoit.
Yes, sir?
Forget it. Excuse me.
Yes, sir?
What does this gem suggest to you?
I advise you not to flash that around. The hospital insurance wouldn't cover it if it was stolen.
Thanks for your help, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Oh, hi.
Hello, my handsome friend.
Have you seen anyone out here watching Mademoiselle Collard's apartment?
Yes, I have. A strange man, tall and thin as a broomstick. He kept his face hidden, but I saw his eyes peering from evil little slits.
How was he dressed?
A long brown raincoat with a hat.
Or like Humphrey Bogart?
Yes, but he didn't have Bogart's charisma. Besides, this guy looked like he needed a toilet. You never saw Bogart clenching his buttocks like that.
See you later.
That's right, monsieur. You will.
Hi, Nico.
Hello, George.
Let's take another look at the manuscript. The Night Scroll bears a phrase in Latin: "Through my teachings, you will be enlightened." See you soon.
Yeah. See you.
The window was full of overpriced clothes for overprivileged women. The window was full of overpriced clothes for overprivileged women. I once read a list of low-stress jobs. It didn't include police work. Obviously, this guy hadn't read the same list. In the middle of the square was a manhole. I wondered if there might be something relevant beneath street level. Hello again, officer.
Hello again, monsieur.
Do you know what this is?
Aha! You Americans with your notorious nose candy. I read Hollywood Wives. I know all about it.
If you tried to sniff this stuff, you'd wall up your nostrils. It's plaster of Paris.
It is. Thank heaven. For one awful moment, I thought I might actually have to arrest somebody. Alors, the paperwork. You have no idea.
I've shown you this plaster, haven't I?
Oui, monsieur.
I'll see you around.
Oui, monsieur. I'll be there.
The statue had any secrets, it was concealing them pretty well. No point in phoning that guy again. Pardon me.
Oui, monsieur?
Forget it. A metal rod attached to the wall was connected to the window.
Attention! Please do not open the window, monsieur.
Don't you think it's kind of stuffy in here?
Better stuffy than dead.
What's the problem? Fumes from car exhausts?
Not just that, monsieur. There's a new burger bar opened up across the street. The Laughing Buffalo.
So what's the problem?
They cook their burgers on a charcoal grill. And the fat falls on the open flame. The amount of organic compound and smoke particles released is astounding. Since they opened, local air pollution has doubled. And it stinks like a funeral pyre. That is why I keep the windows closed. Don't open it. Remember the burning cattle.
It was a statue from ancient Egypt. High above me was a window.
Don't open it. Remember the burning cattle.
Touching an object as rare and beautiful as that would have been the act of a barbarian. access to the side and rear of the museum building was blocked by a dense clump of bushes. There was no obvious way into the building. Through the grimy glass, I could see several large shapes in a gloomy room. What they were, I couldn't imagine. It was an ancient Egyptian sarcophagus with a beautifully painted effigy of its owner on the lid.
Don't even think of climbing in there, monsieur. You'll be suffocated.
I always wondered how it felt to be a mummy. The case contained a collection of rocks. They were all shapes and colors, but they were still rocks. Above them, a sign read, L'Âge Paléolithique. Hi, André.
Hello, Georgie.
I'd like to shake you by the hand, André.
Not now, Georgie.
What do you make of this?
It's the biggest gemstone I've ever seen. Where did you get it?
From Professor Pegram's messenger boy.
Did Pegram find this on his dig?
Yeah, the site where this was found was a Templar castle. Do you think it could be part of the Templar treasure?
No, I shouldn't think so.
Did I show you this gem?
Yes, you did.
What do you make of this ID card?
Nothing.
Does this matchbook mean anything to you?
Alamut is the name of the place where the Hashashin were based.
Where is it?
Somewhere in what used to be called Persia. I'm not too hot on modern geography, I'm afraid. The most recent map I have shows America as an English colony.
Thanks for your help, André.
You're welcome.
Per disciplinum meum lux videbis. A bit of a stained glass window. Wow! Hoping for a big insight while squinting through a hunk of statuary had been pretty optimistic, I guess. Excuse me, sir. May I have the honor of shaking you by the hand?
You may not. I don't encourage physical contact between my staff.
Do you recognize the man in this photograph?
No, sir, I do not.
Does the name Thomas Merlin mean anything to you?
No, it does not.
Thanks for your help. Excuse me.
Yes, sir?
Look at this ID pass.
So you're Merlin. Marquet's been asking for you.
For me?
Yes. He was shouting your name when they brought him in here. Now, let me see. He was on Ward B12, as I recall. Oh, he's being transferred to... Oh, dear. He's on Ward J2. That's Nurse Grendel's ward.
What's so bad about Nurse Grendel?
She runs that ward like a South American prison.
Keeping a well-disciplined ward isn't a crime, is it?
Well-disciplined. In the discipline and punishment stakes, she'd whip the butt off the Marquis de Sade. Everything, I mean everything, is done to a strict routine. 6 o'clock, alarm call. 6:10, bowel movement, and woe betide anyone who doesn't have a result. Those patients of hers are like Pavlova's dogs.
She sounds like a real nightmare.
And then some.
If Nurse Grendel is that bad, how come the authorities tolerate her?
She's like part of the furniture.
Oh, you mean she's been here a long time?
No, I mean there's not a man in this clinic who hasn't sprawled out on her.
I was beginning to get the picture. This woman was jealous, with a big green capital J. How do I find Nurse Grendel's ward?
Down the corridor on the left, turn right at the senior consultant's washroom. Right again at the executive coffee lounge. Bear left past the administrator's sauna. And turn left at the end. That's J2. And good luck.
Thanks for your help, ma'am.
You're welcome.
As I turned the corner, I saw the source of the hellish noise which echoed through the corridors. It was an industrial polishing machine with an odd-looking guy in tow. The door didn't have a sign or label or any kind of identification.
Hey now, you can't go in there.
How come?
I'm responsible for the contents of that cupboard.
He looked blissfully happy, for no apparent reason.
Hello.
What's that?
I said hello.
Oh, hiya.
I'd like to talk to you for a minute.
That's what I thought you said. Don't look so down in the mouth. No matter how bad things seem, I never let life get on top of me.
Oh, yeah? What's your secret?
Why, it's easy. All you have to do is smile and whistle this little tune.
You know what? If you start whistling, I'll bust you in the teeth.
It's a deal.
Do you know a nurse called Grendel?
Sure I do.
Is she on duty today?
Yeah, end of the corridor, Ward J2.
Have you seen any unsavory characters lurking about in the corridors?
No, sir, I haven't. But I've got nothing to worry about. What's that, Mr. Shiny? You'd take good care of the rascals, I'll bet you would. With a friend like him, I've no fear of oppressors.
It must be a great comfort.
He is.
Would Mr. Shiny be your polishing machine by any chance?
Please, don't call him that. He's more of a friend than a machine. I've had Mr. Shiny for 3 years, and he's never let me down once.
How come you got so attached to a polishing machine?
I asked you not to call him that. He's got a name, you know.
Yeah, Mr. Shiny. It's just that...
You think it's odd, don't you?
No,
I don't mind. The rest of the staff think I'm twisted. I heard them snorking behind my back when I gave Mr. Shiny his weekly pull through.
Whatever you've got with this metal mop-foot is probably a fine and noble thing.
It is? Say, it's not every day I meet someone as crazy as me.
Do you know where I'd find a patient called Marquet?
No, I'm not allowed on the wards with Mr. Shiny.
See you later.
Yeah, take care now.
It was a life-sized marble figure of a guy in robes. The sculptor had tried to give him a look of paternal authority and concern. In my mind, he looked just plain constipated. There was no way I could improve on the sculpture with the janitor watching me. I guess the water cooler was for the use of people lost in the corridors. Maybe the face of the unaccountably happy domestic had made me unduly suspicious. I mean, I knew it was only my imagination, but the water tasted, well, peculiar. The connector in the socket supplied electricity to the polishing machine. As I tugged the plug out of the socket, the polishing machine coughed, spluttered, and died.
Mr. Shiny, what's wrong, pal?
Dr. Stobart at your service.
Good afternoon, Doctor.
Oh, hi. Is this Ward J2?
Yes, sir. The patients are ready for your inspection, Doctor.
Thank you, nurse. Well, who's first?
Monsieur Croquet in bed 2.
What's his problem?
He's been complaining of loss of consciousness. You'll need this, Doctor.
She gave me a long, narrow metal box and a stunning smile. Thanks. Hi, I'm Dr. Stobart.
Hello, Doctor.
The nurse told me you keep losing consciousness.
That's right. I've had the problem as long as I can remember. It's a real out-of-body experience. Like death, but not so conclusive.
I see. How long does it last?
Just a fraction of a second, and then I recover.
I might not have been a doctor, but I was formulating a diagnosis all the same. This guy was nuts. I know exactly what you mean. It's known in the medical field as blinking.
Is it serious?
Of course it isn't serious. It's perfectly natural.
But just think, 2 seconds every minute? Why, that's almost half an hour every day. 2 weeks out of every year spent in total darkness.
I don't have time to listen to this baloney. Which bed is Marquet in?
He's round the corner, in solitary.
What's the matter with him?
I don't know, but the men who brought him in were wearing masks and rubber gloves. Hey, you're a doctor. How come you don't know?
We doctors don't know everything.
Then how come you act like you do?
Has Marquet had any visitors?
Nah, neither have I. That's the worst thing about being in hospital. You feel like the rest of the world has abandoned you.
Well, you know how it is. Life goes on.
Thanks for those comforting words.
Well, goodbye and good luck.
Thanks, Doc.
According to the chart, this guy was called Croquet. The graph showed a steady decline in his pulse rate and an increase in his blood pressure. It kind of shook me to see this guy's life reduced to a few jagged lines. The name on the chart was Boissy. The poor guy's temperature had been up and down like a white knuckle ride. No wonder he looked so sick. Now, I was no doctor, but this guy looked dead to me. The name on the chart was Sopmarsh. His temperature was normal, with little fluctuation either way. This guy didn't look sick to me. He didn't have spots or stitches, and he certainly didn't have a fever. Hello? Anybody home?
Who are you?
My name is Dr. Stobart, and I'm here to steer you down the rocky road to recovery.
Dr. Monroe said there was no cure for what I've got.
Your problem is you stayed in bed too long.
Are you sure you're a qualified doctor?
You better believe it. What can you tell me about Marquet?
He's the man in the private room, isn't he? That room was mine before I was tossed out like a common squatter.
Do you know what's wrong with Marquet?
They won't even say what's wrong with me. Tell me, Doctor, what's your opinion?
It's too early to say.
But I've been here for 3 months.
What's your impression of Nurse Grendel?
She's a very efficient young woman.
Efficient? You make her sound like a vacuum cleaner.
I've no complaints.
The woman in reception described Nurse Grendel as a monster.
Well, that's simply not true. She's quite strict, but that's her job, isn't it? You've got to have discipline in a place like this.
See you later. The nurse was stunningly beautiful. The guys on this ward sure were lucky to be in her care. It was a life-sized marble figure of a guy in robes. The sculptor had tried to give him a look of paternal authority and concern. In my mind, he looked just plain constipated.
Doctor,
What is it?
you haven't taken my blood pressure.
Seems fine to me.
You're not doing it right.
Of course I am.
No, you're not. Dr. Monroe never did it like that.
I can't take a satisfactory reading while you're excited like this. I'll come back later.
Oh, Doctor,
What now?
you didn't finish taking my blood pressure.
Okay, let's try again.
You don't have the first idea what you're doing, do you?
I'll come back when you've recovered your manners. Hi, it's me again. I'm going to take your blood pressure.
Why?
I'm a doctor. It's my job. See you later.
You haven't finished taking my blood pressure.
Will you keep quiet? You're disturbing the other patients.
I'll keep quiet when you've taken my blood pressure properly.
I have to see Jacques Marquet first.
How come he gets preferential treatment? It's because he's got money, isn't it?
It's not like that. I'll come back when you've dealt with that chip on your shoulder. Pardon me, nurse.
Oui, monsieur?
Do you have any clowns on the ward?
Why, yes, we do. A professional clown.
I'll bet he lightens the place up.
Hardly. Monsieur Boissy has been in a coma for the last 3 months.
What's wrong with Boissy?
He was involved in a very nasty accident. A silly stunt involving a unicycle. His current condition is due to post-traumatic shock. It's unlikely he'll ever perform as a clown again.
It's an ill wind that blows nobody any good. Do you have a patient named Marquet on this ward?
Oui, monsieur. He is in the private room at the end of the ward. He has been placed in strict isolation.
Why is Marquet in quarantine?
If you wish to know more, you'll have to speak to Herr Hagenmeier. All I know is that Marquet's room is strictly out of bounds.
Do you know who paid for Marquet's room?
No, of course I don't.
Preferential treatment like that must cost an arm and a leg.
That's not my concern, monsieur.
Thank you, nurse.
Au revoir, monsieur.
Pardon me, nurse.
Oui, monsieur?
What is this device?
It's for taking the patient's blood pressure, doctor.
Thank you, nurse.
Au revoir, monsieur.
You haven't finished taking my blood pressure.
Will you keep quiet? You're disturbing the other patients.
You haven't finished taking my blood pressure.
Will you keep quiet? You're disturbing the other patients. Hello again. Do you know what this piece of equipment is called?
No, I don't.
Well, goodbye and good luck.
Thanks, Doc.
You haven't finished taking my blood pressure.
Will you keep quiet? You're disturbing the other patients. Hi, it's me again. I thought about giving him an electric shock, but I just couldn't do that to a sick guy. See you later. Excuse me, sir.
You must be the new boy.
Yeah, I must be.
Well, stop wandering about and make yourself useful. Bunny, come here, boy. This is Benoit, my nephew. Can I trust you to look after him?
Do your own babysitting, Gramps. Who do you think you are, anyhow?
I am Felix Hagenmeyer.
And may I say what an honor it is to meet you in person, sir. You are on my medical wall of fame, right up there with Pasteur and Leary. I look on it as a privilege, no, an honor, to look after your nephew, sir.
He is fresh out of medical school. It will open his eyes to see a real doctor on the job.
I'll bet.
Show him around. Let him see some real suffering.
So long, Hagenmeyer.
Could you take a look at the client in bed number 3 now? His name is Eric Sopmarsh.
What's his problem?
He's delirious. He just now came out of theater. He's recovering from major surgery.
I'll have him up and about before you can say, Lazarus, get out of your bed and walk. Hi, it's me again. See you later. Hey, Benoit.
There's no need to shout. What do you want?
Do you know the nurse on Ward J2?
No, monsieur. This is my first day here. I can't wait to get my hands dirty. I was talking about treating my first patient, of course. I didn't mean I'd get my hands dirty with a nurse.
Shut up, Benoit.
Okay, sir.
Here, take this pressure gauge.
Thank you, sir. What do you want me to do with it?
Well, keep it safe until I think of something. Are you ready with that pressure gauge?
Prime and ready to pump, sir. What do you want me to do with it?
Use it on Eric Sopmarsh.
Okay.
He sat like a statue of a sack of potatoes, but the cop's eyes were as watchful as a hawk's. I'm Dr. Stobart.
Bonjour, docteur.
Have you heard of a guy called Marquet?
He's in quarantine, doc, right behind this here door.
Marquet is just the man I wanted to see.
I wouldn't go in there if I was you. He has anthrax.
I have to visit my patient.
What for?
Routine. I have to check he's still breathing.
What if he's not?
I'll sign the certificate and register his bed as vacant.
That's a cold and distant attitude to death.
Well, I've been institutionalized to the point of godlike aloofness.
The white coat suits you.
Thanks. Have you seen any suspicious characters on the ward?
Yeah, I have.
A gorilla and a weasel?
No, this was a tatty old bear.
How was the bear acting suspiciously?
Well, he was wearing a homburg.
Is that against the law?
No, but it's pretty weird for a bear.
Don't you think it's possible that the bear was a man in disguise?
Well, obviously, I'm not completely stupid. But who would go to the bother of disguising himself as a bear? It's not as if he'd blend in with the surroundings. I checked with base to see if any bears had been reported missing from the zoo or a traveling circus. They told me to sit tight until reinforcements arrive. I guess they're right. I'd be stupid to tackle a bear single-handed.
Catch you later, officer.
Au revoir, Doc. If you see that bear, kick him in the nuts. Rather you than me, pal.
The bottles were full of liquid, with a little trail of bubbles rising to the surface. I figured Marquet's life depended on those bottles, so I decided not to disturb them. Another graph, another life. On the top of the chart was his name, Jacques Marquet. I didn't need to be a doctor to read the graphs. Marquet was dying. Marquet's slim hold on life was being measured, monitored, and maintained by the machinery on the rack. The machine was far too complex for me to understand. Marquet was either peacefully sleeping or placidly dead. Rousing him in the latter case would take a miracle. Marquet?
Yes. I am Marquet. I've been expecting you.
You have?
Well, what are you waiting for? Get it over with.
I just want to know what I should do with the gem.
The Lamar gem.
Yeah, right here in my pocket.
I thought you were one of the assassins.
Not me. I never inhaled.
So, you were sent in my place?
Yeah. You could hardly make the trip to Ireland in your condition. What should I do with the gem?
Deliver it to the Grandmaster quickly. Tell him that I have found the tripod right here in Paris.
You have it?
Not yet, but it's being taken care of. I hired a couple of stooges with a flair for petty crime.
Would that be Flap and Guido by any chance?
You know them?
We've met. What about the Hashashin?
He's more likely to have followed Klausner. He'll stop at nothing to prevent the reforging of the sword.
And that's bad, is it?
As for Klausner, he has gone off to Syria on a wild goose chase.
They have geese in Syria?
He has a theory about the location of
That's enough excitement for one day, Monsieur Marquet. What are you doing here?
Talking to this patient, of course.
Monsieur Marquet is my patient. Herr Hagenmeyer was to hear that.
Okay, I'm going. I'd learned all I could from Marquet anyhow.
There you are, sir. I was just coming to look for you. I finished with your pressure gauge.
Thanks, Bunny.
What's that noise? It sounds as if someone's having a cardiac arrest.
It's all right. The doctor's in there with him.
Are you sure he was a doctor?
Oui, monsieur. He showed me his ID. It was Dr. Braille.
There's no Dr. Braille working here.
He's an imposter. The door's locked. Help me, officer. Stand back, monsieur. I found Jacques Marquet.
Did he talk?
Yeah, he talked. For the very last time.
He's dead.
Yeah, killed in cold blood by a bogus doctor.
That's despicable. What kind of guy would pass himself off as a doctor and take advantage of a dying man? Was it Khan?
No, I don't know who he was, but it certainly wasn't Khan. He got away, out the window. Have you ever heard of the Hashiashin?
No.
Marquet said that they were his biggest enemy.
His biggest enemy was the bogus doctor.
Don't remind me. That guy was evil. He had wild, staring eyes like a dead fish. I'll never trust a doctor again. Do you think the assassin was responsible for killing Marquet?
I don't think so. He could have finished him off the first time. Besides, Marquet would have recognized him.
He was pumped to the gills with sedatives. He wouldn't have recognized the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse unless they'd introduced themselves. I guess I'd better go back and talk to that weirdo.
Which one, Rousseau or Sergeant Mou? Oh, but you're referring to Andre.
I'll let you work it out.